This video is sponsored by Foraged. Should you cut or pull morels? This is one of the most hotly contested topics within the world of mushroom hunting. In this video, we are going to dig into the details to find out once and for all if you really care about morels. Should you pull them straight out of the ground? Should you cut them and delicately remove them? Or does it even matter? Before we continue, we need to acknowledge that no matter where you fall on this issue, we're all really on the same side. We are morel hunters who love morels and care about their future health. We just have different ideas on how that is or is not achieved. For getting the most out of this video, it's imperative that we leave our preconceived notions at the door. Don't worry, they'll still be there at the end if you want them back. First, some very fast biology so that we are all on the same page. Morels, which are the mushroom that we see, are the fruiting body or reproductive structure that is produced by the mycelium of morels, the fungi. So in this way, morels, and fungi that produce mushrooms in general, are analogous to apples on an apple tree, much more so than, say, an actual plant. If you remove a plant from the ground, it's gone. That was the whole thing. But if you remove a mushroom, the organism, the fungus, is still there. Much like simply picking an apple from an apple tree, the tree remains. Now let's look at some studies that may shed some light on our cut versus pull harvest method question. A study that is often referenced to support the claim that cutting or pulling makes no difference is the chanterelle, Cantharellus cibarius, a peek at productivity by Norvell et al., which was conducted in Oregon. The goal of the study was to investigate the overall impact of harvesting chanterelles on future fruiting volume. Additionally, they investigated the impacts of different harvesting methods by dividing observation plots into two categories, cut and pull. Here's what they found after measuring fruiting volume over the course of 7 years. The study states, to date, there appears to be little correlation between harvesting method and productivity. Future studies showed similar results across various species within the genus Cantharellus. They go on. If at the conclusion of the study we find no real difference between cutting or picking, they did not find a difference, we would suggest pulling chanterelles in future studies. The reasoning is that it is easier and faster, and additionally for studies, it helps to consistently count biomass for data. But that last one is for studies specifically. They reference a similar paper. Mushroom picking does not impair future harvest, results of a long-term study in Switzerland by Elgi et al. Here, a large number of fungi species were observed over the course of around 20 years, and no strong correlation between cutting or pulling was found. All right, so case closed, right? We have studies that find no correlation between future fruiting regardless of the harvesting method, cut or pull. Well, I'm not so sure. First off, the Switzerland study doesn't mention at all which species were observed, nor their relative abundance within the species, just the aggregate number of all the species together. So we don't know, 1, if morels were observed at all, or 2, what the numbers were of the morels specifically impacted. Second, for the chanterelle study, chanterelles and morels fall into completely different divisions within the fungal kingdom. Morels fall into the Ascomycota division of the kingdom fungi, whereas chanterelles fall into the Basidiomycota division. So we're not just trying to compare apples and oranges here. What we're talking about is the difference between apples and pine cones. To use chanterelles as a definitive model for morels is a bit of a stretch to me. And physiologically, if we compare the two, we'll find some important differences that need to be addressed. And that comes in the form of the presence or lack of rhizomorphs. Some morels may have rhizomorphs. You can think of a rhizomorph as a dense, rope-like cluster of mycelial threads that connects the morel to a nutrition storage structure, such as sclerotia, kind of like hardened mycelium, or muffs. These are dense mycorrhizal-like connections to the fruiting body. It is conceivable that pulling a morel would in turn pull this rhizomorph mass up with it, which probably is not good for the fungi, in theory. That being said, some mycologists noted that rhizomorphs quickly taper off and disappear as the morel matures. This was observed by Buscott in 1989. Does that mean morel mycelium is still present in the ground as the rhizomorph is naturally or forcefully detached? We just don't know yet. One final argument in favor of pulling that I would like to address is the thought that by cutting a mushroom, you leave behind the short stump that will get infected and damage the mycelium below. This is mentioned in Agaricidal Tendencies, Settling the Debate Over Cutting versus Picking and the Sustainability of Wild Mushroom Collecting by Britt A. Bunyard in Fungi Mag. I want to emphasize this idea that this stump is going to infect the mushroom and then hurt the rest of the mycelium is purely conjecture. I've seen no hard evidence to support it, and personally, I find it a little bit difficult to believe. I mean, most mushrooms left alone are simply going to rot in place, so it would be odd to me that this natural process would damage the fungi itself. All in all, for the question, is cutting favorable over pulling when harvesting morels? We are left with a resounding, it's possible, but in reality, we're just not sure and haven't seen anything that definitively shows one has significant advantages over another. If you're wondering what I do, actually, after the research from this video, I've started to consistently cut my morels. In the words from the paper, Morels, Ecology and Management of Morels Harvested from the Forests of Western North America by Pills et al. Quote, how harmful such mycelial disruption, pulling, truly is to morel colonies is simply not known, but it makes sense to err on the side of caution. This is in regards to rhizomorphs and additionally the chance that tiny baby morels called primordia may continue to grow from the base after cutting. Additionally, quote, there is no reason to believe that cutting morels does more harm than pulling. At the end of the day, I'm in no hurry to harvest hundreds of morels. I don't find that many. So I don't need to find the most productively optimal harvesting method. But how about you? Do you cut or pull your morels? And why? Let me know. But here's the important part, and I cannot emphasize this enough. We simply do not have the evidence to strongly support one method over the other. And in reality, the loss of natural habitat is likely the single largest factor that has a negative impact on overall population health by a long shot. If you really want to help morels, then maybe consider donating to your local land trust or conservation efforts. So next time we see someone harvesting in a way that is not the same as our own, we don't have to call each other a bunch of Instead, you can just send them this video, which investigates the nuances of this fascinating subject, and we can all learn together. By the way, if you want some morels, but you want to make sure that the harvester that you are getting them from practices similar ethics that are in line with your own, then you can head over to foraged.market and find a forager that you like and get some delicious morels shipped right to your door. Check the description for instructions to get an exclusive discount on your order. If you want to harvest your own morels, then you're going to want to watch this video right here to learn about a tree that just might increase your success rate. I'll see you there. Thanks for watching.